Hello and welcome to my podcast, Up Your Total Glow, your podcast for your body, mind and soul to support, guide and empower you to uncover your most glowing, healthiest and feel-good version of you. I am super excited that you are here because if you ask me, there's nothing that looks and feels better. In today's episode, I'm speaking with the absolutely amazing Tabatha Perry. Tabatha is a life coach, and it is her absolute passion to encourage and to empower women that want less chaos so that they get their daily life on track. She has lots of advice on how to make any day less stressful for the woman that is struggling with many balls, and I feel that's pretty much all of us. She used to be a professional overthinker, but she has learned how to simplify her day and now loves to help women to create simple and small edits in their daily lives so that they can step into their fullest potential. This interview was absolutely beautiful, and Tabatha shared with us so much wisdom. Among many other things, she shared her own journey, she shared morning and evening routines, she shared why or what is the one thing that sabotages most of our success, and she also tells us what distracts people to accomplish their goals. So if it is your goal to uncover a much more successful version of yourself with simple but very powerful edits, then this is the episode for you. Please enjoy. Hello, beautiful Tabatha. I'm so excited that you are here today. How are you?
I'm doing so good. Thank you, Ruth, for having me. We had some technical challenges, so I'm glad that we fought through and figured this out to make it work.
There are always technical challenges, I feel. We made it. You are here and it's beautiful, and I can't wait to dive into this conversation with the amazing you. So maybe to start off, would you just give a brief introduction of who you are?
Yes. So I have a self-contract that I like to introduce myself as, and it's I am a strong and courageous, bold and consistent child of God. Now,
I love that.
thank you. Thank you. Now, am I all of those all the time? No, but those are some of the things that I strive for. And I feel like I could introduce myself as a mom, a wife, a social worker, a life coach, but really people want to know our hearts, right? And in my heart, I want to be strong and courageous, and I want to be bold and consistent. And those are some things that I really fight for.
Oh, this is so beautiful. I think I have to change my introduction. I have to think what am I really striving for and create something similar. I love it. Okay, tell us about your journey. I'm just guessing you haven't always been in the same work and in the same space where you are now.
Yeah, it's been very interesting to so I was born and raised in Alaska, which is like the biggest state in America. I know Texas likes to think that they're the biggest state in America, but Alaska wins. We're right next to Russia. And it was actually a very lonely place to live because you couldn't drive in or out of it. You could only take a plane or a boat. And so
Wow.
I really had to, at a young age, figure out what it is that made me happy and be very self-sufficient because I was only an only child. And so I needed to be able to communicate with other people, have like really good social skills. Otherwise, I'd be alone. So at a young age, I learned to adapt. And that kind of evolved into being a people pleaser because I could go into any room and figure out what was needed and then meet that need. And that is absolutely wonderful, you know, if you can have it on the healthy end of the spectrum. But many times in my life, I would just give and give and give and then exhaust myself.
Mm.
So getting into the helping field has been really great because my heart is to help others, but I've had to be very careful of how much of myself that I give, because I just want to give it all.
Mm.
And that's where a lot of work with my boundaries has happened. But specifically because I worked in the prisons. And so I had to have really strong boundaries. So that way they didn't know too much about me, even though I really believe everyone can have a second chance. I believe people can be reformed, especially if they believe in the Lord. They can make good choices. They can, shift from the way that their life has been to a different way of life. And I believe that, someone's past doesn't determine their future, and who they are isn't because of what they've done, right? It's how God had created them. And so being able to help them was great, but there was still that boundary of needing to protect myself and not give too much. So then I get married, and we had decided that I was going to be a stay-at-home mom once we started having a family. And I lasted about a week of like being home and not working. And I was like, this isn't going to work for me. Like, I need to be using my skills, right? I wanted to be. So I started volunteering with teen moms because I could have been a teen mom. And I just knew of their determination and their passion. And honestly, they'd already gone before me. They'd already had babies. So I was learning from them. And
Mm.
so being able to be around people who are strong and weren't handed a really great hand, has really been part of my strategy for keeping humble in my life, because I live a very blessed life, and it could be really easy to get caught up in that and think that I'm entitled to it, which
Mm.
I'm not. I think it is all a blessing. And yes, I've worked hard, but I also feel like everything is a blessing, any good thing that we have. So I kind of went on some tangents there, but ultimately when I had my last child, my last biological child, I knew that I wanted to be done with children and work, but I didn't know how, because my husband moved around a lot. And so I would need something that I could work from home. And that's when I decided to start my life coaching business, because I wanted to still work with women. I wanted to help them get out of their prisons. Because when I
Mm.
was working with women in prison, I realized some of them were more free in prison than some of the
Mm.
women that I was interacting with in society, just because of their limiting beliefs, because of what they thought that they should do, that they had to do. And I still struggle with that too. So I completely empathize. But that's where kind of my life coaching business started from.
Wow, so very powerful and empowering. And I feel I can relate to so many things that you said. I've got a question. I don't know if you can answer it, but how do we actually set healthy boundaries and help ourselves to not be a people pleaser, for example, among many other things anymore?
So I'm still figuring this out, to be honest. But the first step is figuring out who I am, right?
Yeah.
And knowing where my values are. And so I have a podcast, and I actually just interviewed an amazing woman where she talked about values
Mm.
and how important it is that we live aligned with them. And it's interesting when I start to live aligned with, like, honesty is a value of mine, just
Mm.
being really honest,
Mm.
um, that I won't people please if I'm aligned with that, because then I'm being
Mm.
honest with someone that I don't really want to do that, or this is my opinion. So I really think the first step is figuring out who we are, what we value, and then practicing that, and practicing saying no. Once a day, like saying no to something.
I
That
love
is really
that.
helpful too.
Beautiful. So, so helpful, because I think when we can bring it down to our values, becoming aware of what our values truly are, then we create a different power within us. And yes, this power then is so strong that can help us to, actually not people please or do these other things. So absolutely beautiful. So you mentioned that your past is in the criminal justice system, something like that. So you were working with women in prison. And now that you're doing life coaching, you're helping women to free themselves of their mental prisons. So can you just tell us a little bit about how you do that? And you also mentioned that those women in prison seemed almost
freer, more free than the women that have created their own prisons. Yeah, just tell us a little bit about all of this. I find this super interesting, and I definitely can relate for myself, because I know I had so many layers of prisons within me, and I'm still a work in progress, pushing through those layers. So I'm not pretending to, make out that I'm all healed and all good and out of prison now. But yeah, I find this super interesting, and I hope my audience can relate.
Absolutely. Well, and that was one thing that I really found interesting working in the prison, is that most of these women are just the same as us. We can talk about hair and nails and social media and their issues with their mom, their issues with their kid, relationship problems. Like, we are literally the same, except for most of them had some trauma in their life and made some decisions that there were consequences. And so when I still volunteer at the prison, so when I would tell my girls that I'm going there, I'm like, mommy's going to where there's some women that are on timeout. So they get an opportunity to think about what they're doing, and then they can leave, right? Just like I put my kids on timeout, like just I need you to think about what just happened, so you can make better choices kind of moving forward. So I really want to iterate that when we think of women in prison, men in prison, that they're not other people. They're not different than us. They were dealt a bad hand, and they need to take responsibility, for their actions. And that's what they're doing. They're serving their time. So I found that many of the women just were able to embrace their situation and take responsibility. I think that when we're in our prison, sometimes we pretend like we're victims, that things are happening to us, that someone is locking us in this prison. And so these women have acknowledged that they, made some choices that brought them there. And so when we as women can take responsibility for, like, okay, I put myself in this situation that I'm in, you start to have more freedom to push open that door of that prison cell and to be able to walk out. And you may be walking into another prison cell, because like you said, we have so many different layers of prison, but at least trying to work through that. So taking that responsibility has been really interesting.
Wow, beautiful. I love that. And what role, or do you have certain routines in your day that you personally do, or that you suggest to your clients? Because I personally, I'm super big on rituals or routines, especially in the morning and in the evening. You probably know that I'm a huge fan of Ayurveda, and this really helps me, or those rituals really help me to stay anchored. So what's your take on rituals or routines?
Absolutely. And so this is actually something too that was reinforced working in the prison, is everything is on a schedule. Everything is very orderly in prison. And how many times in our life does our life feel chaotic? Because we don't create those routines and we don't create order when we have the control. We have the power to do that. So my favorite thing is I always start with my evening routine, because I'm sure, as you know, Ruth, how you end your evening is how you're going to begin the next day. And so I love to read actual books, like paper books from the library.
Absolutely.
You're right. It's so fun. And so I have a book that I read every night, whatever the book is. I also set my alarm to remind me to go to bed. So it'll say like, hey, you want to be asleep by 9:30. So it usually gives me about 45 minutes, because most of us women have, moisturizer to put on and brushing our teeth. We're doing all the things. So it's not just immediate where you like end up in bed. So I think it's very important to be aware of how long it takes you before you can literally lay in bed. I also plug my phone in my bathroom, which is far away, and it is still my alarm. And so I have to get up out of bed, and I very rarely snooze it. That's very important to me. I don't care about making my bed. I know that's a big thing. I care about not snoozing my alarm. That is the best decision that I make every morning, is to wake up when my past Tabatha decided that I needed to wake up, because I trust her. And she said that she needed to wake up this time, which is consistently around 5 o'clock.
Wow, beautiful. Absolutely love that. Love your evening routine. And I feel when we create such routines, it also gives us space to actually handle our days better. Like when you said, you know, all those those women in prison, excuse me, they had scheduled times to do things. That sounds like heaven to me, because yeah, I know, at the same time, of course, it can be boring, but you know, it just takes away all this guesswork and all this decision making, which we have to do anyway all the time. So I feel when we create those beautiful evening routines like you've just described, then we have more mental strength to do other things. Do you feel the same?
Oh, absolutely. I think it really cuts down on decision fatigue, which I think as women is something we really struggle with, and maybe not even identify we struggle with it, that we're making 10,000 little decisions every single day. So if some of those decisions can already be made, then it does create that space that you're talking about in your mind. And so maybe you can put that brain power to something more important than what time you should go to bed or what time you should wake up, because it's just a consistent thing that you do. Just like when you learn to drive a car or tie your shoes, at first it's a little clunky and awkward, but then you just do it and you don't even realize it. So now I just go to bed at a certain time and wake up. Even when I travel, a lot of the times I'll stick to my routine because I know my body operates and my mind operates the best when I stick to that routine.
Beautiful. Love it. And I feel that there is a certain theme in your life. You seem to love to work with women. So why is that?
I think that women are so strong, and it's interesting. So with my faith, the church that I attend, a lot of the women can focus kind of on their weaknesses, which believing in God, you're supposed to like acknowledge that he's your strength. But what's interesting is that men focus on their strength. And so I think that there's just been these messages that we're supposed to be weak, and that is important, but you have to move through that weakness to the strength. So I love helping women become stronger. I love helping women become that courageous and bold woman that I know she is, but she kind of forgets it, because there was a time in my life I forgot how to be strong and courageous and then I realized, it's like, man, I got to get back into this. Like, I'm tough. I know I'm strong. I know I can do these things, but I've literally forgotten how to do them. And so I had to like take that back. And so helping women do that has been something that is just very exciting. And I know that it can help generations to come. You can leave a legacy by women being influential in their life, because they kind of set the temperature in the home, right? They're the thermostat. They get to kind of, make sure everyone's doing well. And if they're not doing well, then other people are affected. So actually, by focusing on the woman and her strengths, she's able to leave a more positive legacy.
Couldn't agree more. Definitely agree that women are super powerful. So what are the tools? How can we build that strength muscle?
Yes. So again, it really comes back. We have to know who we are. And I realize that it sounds repetitive, but we forget and we focus on who everyone else is, who your significant other is, who your boss is, like all their power and strength. And we forget about our own power and strength. So we come back to that. Then we have to realize like what it is that we want. And so I regularly do brain dumps where I'm just like emptying out my brain of all of the random thoughts that are taking up space, and being able to identify what are some of the things that I'm needing to take action on. What are some of the things that I'm feeling led to do, and other things that I just need to like put away, like they're just done. Kind of like when you clean out your purse, right? From different seasons, and there's all these random things and you need to go put them away in different rooms. Those are our thoughts too. Sometimes we need to organize our thoughts.
Totally. And do you do this via journaling or?
Yep. It's nothing special. It's literally a piece of paper and I just write everything out. As much as I love simplicity, at times I like to complicate things because I'm a perfectionist. And I think that, I see, maybe you are too.
Recovering, trying not to be.
Yeah. Yes. And so literally just a piece of paper, and I dump all those thoughts out, from my grocery list to the feelings that I'm feeling, the thoughts that are causing those feelings, all of it. And it is so helpful to see like, oh, maybe the thing that was frustrating me is something that I could take action on, and it doesn't have to bother me as much. Because when we put it out on paper, when we bring truth into light, it takes away any of the maybe dark power that is in our mind.
So powerful. Yet I somehow haven't been able to create a journaling practice that I could stick with. I would so love to, because I totally believe in it and have heard from so many sources how absolutely amazing it is. Yet somehow for myself, I haven't been able to, find and discover the right way how to go about it. So very fascinating.
I love that you are so honest about that, because I feel like so many people in like the helping industry, they are always like, journal, journal. I actually don't even really like to journal. I do it as a strategy because I know it's helpful. And so I've also had to release expectations. I know there's all these beautiful journals out there that you can buy and prompts and stuff, but mine is like scribbles, and whatever needs to come out comes out. And so I allow myself to be messy in this area of my life. I love order. I love, things to be in its place. But when it's my thoughts, I know there's a process. And so literally just having a piece of paper and writing it out. For some of my clients that haven't enjoyed journaling, I've also encouraged them just to record themselves on their phone and just get it all out. You don't even have to go back and listen to it. The power is getting it out of your brain and into something else. And so that's also kind of another strategy to consider if you don't like to write or journal.
Okay. I might try that out. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
I love
well,
it.
you're a verbal processor, right? With your podcast.
Yeah.
And so it may be just something just to get, all those thoughts out of your mind. And then, it is interesting to kind of go back and listen. And I've only listened to a couple of mine. I'm like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, same. I find this so brave. So many of my podcasters say, yeah, listen to the podcast and I'll give you feedback, and they actually do it. I'm thinking, wow, you're so brave. I find this so excruciatingly hard to listen to my own podcast. So thank you. I love being so honest with you. That is amazing. You have mentioned before negative self-beliefs, which is obviously something that I believe rules us a lot, or it rules me a lot. Again, work in progress here. So let's talk a little bit about success. And do you feel that our self-limiting beliefs can really go against our best efforts?
Oh man, absolutely. I mean, that is the number one challenge I have, is some of these limiting beliefs. And a belief, right, is a thought that we've had over and over and over again that we believe is true. But a lot of times our beliefs, we don't know that we have them. And so I think that it is a fascinating concept that we're like, why can't we, succeed? Like, why am I having this hard time? And it's because there's some disconnect, right? There's some belief that's blocking your head and your heart, right? Because you know all the things to do. People know how to lose weight, right? Less calories, exercise, but there's a disconnect between their heart and their motivation. And so we have to figure out what that belief is, that limiting belief that is blocking that connection. And that's why hiring a coach is an amazing way to do that, because many times you can't figure out those beliefs without having someone, right? And as much as it is nice to have like a friend or a significant other or a mom to process this with, they always have an agenda. Not that it's a bad agenda, but they have an agenda of what they think is best for you. And so having a coach, being able to listen and be a completely neutral source and repeat back what you're saying, then you're able to see, oh my gosh, there's this limiting belief that's totally holding me back from succeeding, when I had no idea that that was stopping me.
I totally agree. I feel it's really shining light onto those blind spots that are ruling you, yet you can't see them. So for me, having worked with coaches or other amazing professionals, this has been life-changing. So I absolutely agree with you. And obviously I'm a coach myself, so of course I believe in this. But could you maybe still give a few action steps, or what can one do to actually become more aware of those self-limiting beliefs? And I know this might now sound, well, we've just said you can't, become aware of those self-limiting beliefs yourself, but let's just try and work there in a theoretical speaking manner. And I think some things we can actually become aware of. Of course, it's always better to work with a coach, but can you give some action steps?
Absolutely. So we can be distracted two ways, internally and externally. So internally are those like maybe limiting beliefs, and externally, people, technology. So I think in order to understand what those beliefs are, we can kind of take a different approach and look at what distracts you throughout the day. What holds you back just from the simple things of, doing the laundry, cleaning the toilet, sending that email, writing that report, and then start to unlayer like, well, why is that? So when we have those external beliefs, it kind of goes back to the boundaries or external distractions, the things that are holding us back. We can realize that maybe we're saying yes to things that we shouldn't be. And then we can uncover, okay, why do I feel like I need to say yes to something when I know I should be spending my time over here, but now my time is over here? And then when we have these internal distractions, right, these limiting beliefs, we can use the technique of reframing, of having this thought of like, oh, this email is so hard to write, man, I'm just going to put it off for a little bit longer, right? Or, okay, yes, this email is hard to write. I can do hard things and I'm going to feel so much better once it's done, and done is better than perfect. And so using these two strategies, identifying, is it internal or is it external? And if it's internal, to reframe the thought. And if it's external, to create some different boundaries.
Beautiful. I love that distinction between internal and external. I haven't ever thought about it that way. That's beautiful. You bring so much clarity just by saying those things. I love that. Very, very clear and helpful and powerful. Thank you. So I'm pretty sure that in your coaching, you are setting goals with your clients. So what's your strategy of success so that your clients are also able to transform those goals into actual happiness or whatever they want to achieve? Because I think, this is what we all want. We want this and that. We have those amazing goals. Maybe we even have great strategies, but yet something is missing. So help us out here.
Yeah. So this is where my coaching gets really boring. I go back to the basics.
I love that. Basics are awesome.
It's basically, we're putting things in your calendar. We are breaking things down, big projects down into small little edits. So my whole thing is creating small edits so you can get big results. And the idea of using edits is that when we say changes, it seems really big and it seems like we've done something wrong. Whereas an edit is manageable. It's just a shift, right? And an edit doesn't necessarily imply that something is wrong. It just means that we're wanting to shift something. So when we make small little edits in our life, we've identified what it is that we want to do, right? And we kind of look at it really big, and then we break it down into the small pieces. So what is one thing you can do in the next 24 hours? Okay, perfect. What time are you going to do that? How are you going to do it? I want you to put it in your calendar. Okay, what are you going to do in the next 48 hours? Great. So we literally get into the calendar, we write it out, and we put specific steps. And now with I use the iCalendar, you can put cute little like emojis in it. So I don't know, it just makes it more fun, right? And then you can put check marks when you accomplish it. And then you can look back at your week too and be like, wow, I finally did that. Because it's really interesting. I've had this email that I've needed to write like for a week now, and I keep putting it off because your brain doesn't want to have to work harder than it needs to. And so I've been able to like slowly do it because I've broken it down. Like, okay, I'm going to work on this part of the email, and then I'll work on this part of the email, and then it needs to be sent by this day. And just putting it in my calendar holds me accountable because I trust myself to do something when I write it down. And so this strategy really works well for people who follow through with what they say they're going to do.
Beautiful. I love it. And it also shows how powerful our language is, because once you change the language from, this huge goal, this huge thing that we want to do, this huge change to an edit, it just already feels and sounds so much more doable. So I absolutely love that. So tell us, Tabatha, where can we find you and your amazing work?
Yes. So I have a podcast, the Life Edit podcast with Tabatha Perry,
Beautiful.
where again, I love to break down big problems into small little edits. And then also on social media, Tabatha Perry Life Coach.
Oh, amazing. Absolutely beautiful. I will, of course, put all of this in my show notes. And I would love for you to share 3 gold nuggets with my audience. So 3 little pieces of wisdom. I mean, you've shared so much wisdom already, but just so that they can remember and that they've got 3 gold nuggets they can kind of take home with them.
Absolutely. So the first gold nugget would be how you end your day is how you begin the next. So really consider those routines.
Beautiful.
The second would be to do what you say you're going to do. So if that means that you need to just make a small little goal, that is fine. It is better to make a small goal and follow through with it than to make a really big goal and to keep losing that trust with yourself, and to create those small little edits. And then the third is to know that you were created on purpose and with a purpose. And so sometimes we can just feel really lost in life, and in our own prison. And when we really kind of go back to who created us and who we are, then it really starts to help us break out of that prison.
Wow. So empowering and so beautiful. Thank you so much. Your work is absolutely amazing. I'm such a huge fan of you. Is there anything that you would still like to share with my audience that we haven't touched upon?
I just, again, really want to encourage women to feel empowered, to be strong and bold. And no matter what they've been told in the past about needing to be meek and mild and weak, you are strong and courageous.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I am so very grateful for all that you do and for your amazing work. And I'm so thankful that you are helping to make our world a healthier, happier place. You're amazing, and I'm a huge fan. Thank you so much. Stay awesome.
Thank you, Ruth.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
I really hope you loved and enjoyed this episode as much as I did. And if you did, I have a little favor to ask. It is my vision to create a healthier, happier world, and I need your help to do so. Could you please share, like, subscribe, and review my podcast, because this would help so that others could find it too. I know that you were born to live your best life and to feel absolutely wonderful in your precious body, your brilliant mind, and your boundless soul. So what are you still waiting for? Please make sure you do. I'm your biggest cheerleader. Keep glowing. Much love. The amazing Tabatha Perry is also the host of the wonderful podcast, the Life Edit podcast, which I love and is full of so much beautiful wisdom and easy edits that you too can implement into your life for an amazing success. So please make sure you check her podcast out.